Gentlemen, welcome to the Secret Listeners. Thank you for coming on this wonderfully hot day. We would like to thank the Heritage Lottery Fund and our partners, the Wiener Library and the Jewish Military Museum. This event begins with a lecture by a social historian, Dr. Inge Weber-Newt, and is integrated in a performance and installation as a response to the authentic texts recorded by the Secret Listeners in this building. You will hear a small amount of an interview with Fritz Lustig, who was one of the Secret Listeners, and will give you an authentic view of the individual experience. The performers are very young volunteers and students. It's an atmospheric collage of music, image, film, and text. After the performance, you can go to the educational rooms on the first and second floors. You're also given some very nice tea by some nippies. One room is an educational room, which is a response to the text by young people who have workshopped. The other two are presented by the Jewish Military Museum and the Wiener Library. I have one request. Please turn off your mobile phones and let's start our adventure now. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, during the last 3 years of World War II, between 1942 and 1945, this elegant building served as a prisoner of war camp. The windows were barred, the grounds were secured with barbed wire and patrolled by guards. However, the inmates of this camp were not ordinary soldiers, but high-ranking generals and officers of the Wehrmacht who had commanded German armies in combat. Altogether, Trent Park housed 84 German officers who were captured by the Allied forces in North Africa, in France, and later in Germany. These prisoners enjoyed excellent conditions in captivity. They had good food and drink, alcohol and tobacco. The highest military ranks were accommodated in suites. Other senior officers shared a room or had single bedrooms on the first floor. The ground floor served as communal area where the captured generals dined, listened to music, or painted. An extensive library was brought over from the former German embassy to Trent Park to provide reading materials. Prisoners had English language tuition, and occasionally were shown films and were taken for walks in the extensive grounds. When Churchill discovered that they were even taking on trips to Windsor and Eton, he was horrified. So we carry on with our tour. Please follow me. There are some chairs. At Trent Park, the prisoners gradually lowered their guard and relaxed. They felt unobserved and soon spoke freely with each other about their experiences. This was exactly what the British had intended. It was their strategy to get any useful information about the enemy, their plans and military moves. A careful mix of established prisoners and new arrivals ensured that there were interesting topics to talk about. But discussions were also deliberately stimulated by cooperative prisoners from other camps, by German exiles who operated as stool pigeons, and by undercover agents, one of whom was a so-called Lord Aberfeldy, who introduced himself as a relative of the king. Now this was an ideal setup for the Secret Service to carry out recordings of the officers' conversations. 12 rooms at Trent Park, including the entire ground floor here, were bugged. Microphones were hidden everywhere, even in flower pots and the snooker table, unknown, of course, to the generals. The approach of spying on the prisoners' private conversations paid off. The surveillance operation, which included 2 other spying units, namely Latimer House and Wilton Park, amassed nearly 65,000 conversations. That is about 120 hours of recorded conversation and tens of thousands of transcribed pages. These records were classed top secret until recently. Most of the listeners were Jewish refugees from Nazi Germany or Austria, and specially recruited and trained for this job. Equipped with earphones, they sat in the basement of this building, in front of their amplifying machines, listening quietly to what the generals' conversations above were. As soon as something important was said, the listeners would start a gramophone recording. When the surveillance operation began, only a handful of staff was engaged in listening. But by 1944, the rooms were crowded with listeners, listening up to 8 hours every day. One can only imagine how painful this job must have been for some of the exiled listeners, particularly when they overheard shocking details discussed above them. However, as this was classed top secret, the listeners were not allowed to talk about anybody to it, not even to their partners or families.
No, I mean, obviously there were the people who were guarding the prisoners who let them out and who were at the gate to check the passes and so on. So there was a commanding officer for the camp, and there was a commanding officer for the intelligence. And the camp side never mixed with the intelligence side for security reasons, obviously. So when the number 2 intelligence side increased in numbers, I was sitting right there, I was president. And the first time I talked in detail about it was after I met Philip Fry, the author of that book. And I got in contact with her because she put an advertisement into the HAR Journal, the Journal of the Association of Jewish Refugees, asking whether anybody knew Hannah Bush, who was the wife of another entertainment section colleague of mine.
The interned high-ranking officers were not a homogeneous group, but made up of different personalities and ages. They were shaped by their social background, the length of their military service, and especially by their individual war experience. The group included a number of ardent Nazis as well as opponents to the Nazi system, even those who revolted against Hitler. Very crudely, they can be divided into 2 different camps. The group around General von Thoma, who was critical about Hitler and Nazism, who condemned the atrocities carried out in the East, and who was a supporter of the plot to murder Hitler. The other group supported General Cruvel. He attempted to justify war crimes either by minimizing their scale or by doubting whether they had happened at all.
In spite of the belief that we have total warfare, the resources of the German people have not nearly been exhausted yet. As long as we don't use women as drivers on the front, we still don't have total war.
I went to meet Hitler and he gave me a speech for 3/4 of an hour. He gets drunk on his own speeches.
I tell you something. Imagine the tables turned. And England had all their towns destroyed, just as we have in Germany today. And then the Germans have come over and occupied your country for 5, 10, or 15 years, maybe.
We can't make our general Tomer anymore. How can the man say the things he does and then tell us at the table? The German people and the German army have lost their honour.
If our homes are at stake, if our fatherland is at stake, and if we must fight on the Oder, no quarter should be given. If we capitulate now, Germany will be wiped out once and for all. And you will probably find yourself with me in Siberia on some fine job or another, unless we perish on the way.
I went into the room and there he stood, a fat, broken down old man with festering hands. They had been scratched to bits as a result of the attempt in his life.
The German occupation forces are in charge. What would the English do? They'd look on every German in the occupation force as an arch enemy.
What am I supposed to do about it? The two of you are like Tweedledee and Tweedledum. It really is the case that you and he are a single entity.
We shall never hear from our families again. You shall never be allowed to marry, and the German people will be finished forever. Do you believe? It makes you laugh that a people like the damned English, with their supercilious but slow and uncultured methods, should want to dominate the German people. That is a piece of insolence we simply cannot accept. Our national pride simply will not allow us to be ruled by such swine.
Or the Gauleiter whom he agreed to shortly afterwards. In order to gain fresh courage, all shook hands with him so enthusiastically and trustingly that he got badly festering sores.
They'd create stumbling blocks for every German coming their way, and they'd either stick a knife in his ribs, poison him, or bump him off in some way or another.
There's nothing that can be done about that. That's nonsense. You must have often thought that you are one entity.
We've all got to know them. We know their streets, their towns. They have some cities which are not bad, but most of it is damned awful, and the people are swine.
When I gave him my hand, I gave it to him very carefully. I was really almost sorry for him because he looked horrible.
You may rest assured of it, that if the English and the Americans occupy the country, and even if they take the French and Czechs to do it, they won't be able to annihilate a population of 80 million. They can't kill a lot of us!
To get to the concrete case, someone told me that the quick promotion of generals was their readiness to shout, "Ha, Hitler."
And if we compare it to our German towns, our German transport system, our German railways, we see that ours really is a fine country. It truly is first class.
We had to sign when we got there, and we didn't talk about it to anybody but each other for many, many years. I mean, my family, other members of my family, never knew what I was doing. There were no longer any secrets about the British intelligence in the war. And that's when I was less reticent about talking about it.
On this tour, we will hear specially selected short extracts from these documents, They are not necessarily representative of the whole collection, but what they reveal is that some of the officers knew about the internment of Jews, their murder in concentration camps, and their mass shooting in the East. The documents even provide evidence that individual officers were personally involved in war crimes, and yet, after the war, they were not punished. The documents also revealed important information on German U-boat tactics in the Atlantic. They exposed that Germany was developing the V-2 rocket, and they brought to light intelligence on the Luftwaffe's bombing targets. Such information was directly relevant to the British war efforts and hence had a vital impact on the outcome of war. The documents tell us how widespread anti-Semitic thinking was, even amongst the officers who detested Hitler's ideology. They also demonstrate how the German military was shaped by traditional Prussian ideals of discipline and obedience, particularly by the concept of military honor, of fulfilling one's duty and fighting to the last bullet. After the war, the generals were keen to emphasize that they had fought an honorable war. They managed very successfully to disguise their lack of courage in resisting Hitler and his criminal leadership. Finally, the documents contributed to the destruction of the long-held view in Germany that the Wehrmacht was a clean army, that only Hitler and the SS committed war crimes. We now know that the German army was also
We're now going to divide you into 3 groups. This is because we're going to take you down to the basement and the rest of the rooms in the first floor and the second floor of the house. So those with the green cards, please go to my colleague Will, there at the back of the room. On the reverse of your card, please. Green at the back of the room, please.
The listeners below in the basement hastily transcribed these conversations. When the content of the conversation was very important, the listeners would quickly engage a recording machine which would capture the sound, capture the truth to a wax disc. The words you will hear are important. As listeners yourselves, you are hearing words that have not been uttered in almost 70 years. The sound in your headphones are presented in a 3D format. The German generals will appear to share outer space. For a few minutes, you may want to close your eyes at the beginning. Please ensure that your headphones are on the correct way around. The side with the red light should be on your right ear. You're also able to adjust the volume on the right side. Thank you.
conversation in August 1944 between officers Helvig and Klemm. I was at Gommel, a chit settlement. There is a wood and sand dunes where hundreds of Jewish men, women, and children lay buried. I wouldn't believe it until I myself saw children of 4 and 5, girls of 14, 15, and 16. Shattering. Regarding Russian prisoners of war, General Seifert said they were all killed. All of them. They were killed in their thousands. 600,000 were captured. 400,000 died on the march between Gdansk and Smolensk alone. Whose idea was that? What was the reason for it?
And at present, she is staying in England on Hashkara at the following address.
Peter Bev, Great Elm Farm, Camp Post, Woodchurch.
Near Ashford, Kent. By Hitler, my whole family is dispersed.
My 8.5-year-old son is in a hostel in Paris.
My 14-and-a-half-year-old girl is in England.
My wife in Vienna.
Myself in Poland.
My fortune is gone.
Is there a greater tragedy?
Is there a greater tragedy?
Is there a greater tragedy?
Therefore, I appeal to my child.
Send us to our hostel to be educated.
Please send my child.
You've got to be educated.
Please look after my child.
Send us to be educated.
Please send my child.
Good people.
Please look after my child.
I appeal to you to our hostel to be educated.
Therefore, I appeal to you, good people. Please look after my child. Send us to a hostel to be educated. Good people.
Therefore, you good people.
Look after my child.
Please send it to a hospital to be educated.
Therefore, I appeal to you, good people.
Please look after my child.
Send her to a hospital to be
Please
educated.
send her to a hostel to be educated. May God reward you for your good deeds.
Yours obediently,
Sigmund Bergman.
Furono avvertiti solo poco prima. Sono stati autorizzati a prendere poche cose con loro. Solo 100 marchi. 100 marchi. Nient'altro. E poi quei 100 marchi sarebbero serviti loro alla stazione per pagare la tariffa. Quando gli ebrei furono portati via da Francoforte, furono avvertiti solo poco prima. Poche cose con loro. Giusto 100 marchi. Quando gli ebrei furono portati via da Francoforte, furono avvertiti solo poco prima. Sono stati autorizzati a prendere poche cose con loro. Giusto 100 marchi. 100 marchi. Altrimenti niente.
shall not be ashamed of myself.
I must try.
Perhaps we bear even more guilt than these uneducated animals.
Haben Sie mich ausgelacht? Es ist doch Unsinn, was Sie da sagen. Sowas gibt es nicht.
Most important.
Gräuel, Propaganda in the world. Deserved victory.
We are
Represented as. Ach, das ist ja. Most important.
Undoubtedly superior.
Unsinn. Family life.
We are
Most important. To save Germany.
over the continent of
in
Europe.
the world.
Personal strength.
Gräuel, Propaganda. The swine.
Gräuel, Propaganda.
Hypnotism. Hated. Delusion. Unsinn.
Document 128 and 210.
Document 45.
Document 27.
Document 30. Document 150.
Document 31. Document 80. Ich denke da an die Geschichte, die mir erst viel klar geworden ist. Diese berühmten Gräuel. Das haben ja die Leute nicht gewusst, aber die meisten Offiziere hier, denen sind die bekanntesten Geschichten einfach unbegreiflich. Sie haben es nicht gewusst.
If you were to ask me,
Haben die Leute gesagt,
have we deserved victory or not?
das ist
I should say
Gräuelpropaganda?
no.
Unsinn.
Not after what
Sowas
we have
gibt
done.
es nicht. Das
After
kann
the
man
amount of
auslassen,
blood
kaum
we
glauben.
shed knowingly.
Kann man sagen.
And as a
Es
result
ist
of
gewesen.
our delusions,
Das gibt
we all share the guilt. We went along with everything, and we half took the Nazis seriously. Instead of saying, to hell with you and your stupid nonsense, I misled my soldiers into believing this. I feel utterly ashamed of myself. Perhaps we bear even more guilt than these uneducated animals.
Nein.
Es ist doch Unsinn, was Sie da sagen. Sowas ist nicht möglich. Das gibt es nicht, Himmler.
Germany was the
Most humane.
Most important.
Gräuelpropaganda in the world. Deserved victory.
we are
Represented as.
Ach, das ist ja.
Most important.
Undoubtedly superior.
Unsinn. Family life.
We are
Most important. To save Germany. The blood we've shed.
over the continent of Europe.
in the world.
Personal strength.
Gräuelpropaganda. The swine.
Gräuel, Propaganda.
Hypnotism. Hated. Delusion. Unsinn.
We are well, only anxious over you. May God keep you safe and grant us a speedy reunion. Class is happy, Carl and I working, all our love, Dora. Date, 18th of October 1942. Dearest daughter, do not worry over us. We hope to stay here till peace comes. We are well. May God keep you safe until we see you again. Love, Father and Mother. 20th of July 1943. The Dutch Red Cross. From Dr. Gross Wilhelm, Barrack 73. Camp, Westerbork. To Fräulein Dora Gross, Birmingham 29. Lily Oak, 48 Exeter Road, England. Letter from the Netherlands Red Cross Society. President, Her Royal Highness Princess Juliana. Information Bureau, 120 Pall Mall, London SW1. London, 5th of May 1944. Dr. Carl Gross, 1 Carlisle Road, Birmingham. Dear Mr. Gross, we are in receipt of your letter and Red Cross message of the 2nd of May, which has been duly forwarded to Westerbork. We are in receipt of your letter and Red Cross message of the 2nd of May, which has been duly forwarded to Westerbork. It is possible that your people have been transferred to Theresienstadt, which is in Czechoslovakia. As the International Red Cross does not advise inquiries in cases like that, there is very little one can do. Possibly the British Red Cross has more data about Theresienstadt. Otherwise, can you check with your source of information? Hoping that your message will reach them and that you receive a reply. We remain, yours faithfully, L. Lewis. 27th of August 1939. Sir, I refer to you with a request. Please look after my child, a girl of 14, who has passed the secondary school with honours, very intelligent, well-educated, healthy and good-looking, but delicate and not suitable for hard work on the land. Great Engleham Farm, Camp Post Woodchurch near Ashford, Kent. The camp management plans to send my child in the near future to Palestine, a plan with which I do not agree at all. And I do hope that the good God permits that I may soon be reunited with my family, the foreign languages and so on. As to the Hebrew, it may be the closest connection with us, since she clings to the old prayers for the beginning. I think my letter will be successful. I said to her that she has to learn Jewish things in English, as she has come because of her Judaism to England. She will understand that it will be good to express Jewish matters, prayers, etc. in English, as it is possible that she will be asked by her companions about the contents. Now we will patiently wait. She is intelligent enough to see the right, and I will help her understanding. Her letters were very nice and of a good style. They were a large joy for us and our friends. My husband will write to you as soon as he overlooks our plans. We are corresponding about Cuba and Chile, but to the moment there is not to be seen a bright, clear start. Meanwhile, we do our work in our new professions, especially my husband, so that we are good prepared to earn abroad with our hands' work. In all nuisances, it is a great happiness that my husband is so well qualified for his new profession, that he loves it, and that he has good success. I should be glad to hear from you again and send you our kindest greetings. Yours cordially, Etta.
Document 95. Document 95.
Document 95. Document 95.
Yesterday evening,
We reckoned that
according to all reports,
5 million Jews must have been killed by
us.
By us.
By us.
shame that he took the rest of the world so
In my opinion, no greater outrage is that of mass murder.
the mass murder of innocent
rodzina jest wszędzie na świecie, ja jestem w Polsce, może w Wiedniu i żaden z nas nie ma grosza przy duszy, dlatego bardzo kto Panu wynagrodzi. Bardzo proszę, niech się Pan zajmie moją córeczką. Ona ma 14 lat i jest bardzo zdolna dziewczynka, ale nie nadaje się do ciężkiej pracy w polu. Córka ma na imię Vita Bergman. Przebywa teraz w Ashford, w hrabstwie Kent w Anglii. Z rozkazu Hitlera cała moja rodzina została wywieziona po świecie. Mój mąż jest w Wiedniu, mój syn w Paryżu, ja w Anglii. Dlatego bardzo proszę, niech Pan się nią zajmie i obo Bóg to Panu wynagrodził.
On these long roads, the neighbouring villages were herded together and were slaughtered. Men, women and children were immediately raised from the ground. They were driven into a pen, and the order was given, "Fire on them!" And of course, they weren't killed outright. Of course there was terrible screams as they fell, children too. An officer had to go along and put a bullet through their heads.
We had to burn the church down.
At night they howled like wild beasts. They hadn't got anything to eat. Then we marched down a road, and a column of about 6,000 tottering figures went by, completely emaciated, helping each other along. Every 100 or 200 meters, 2 or 3 collapsed. Our soldiers, on bicycles, rode alongside with pistols. Everyone who collapsed was shot and thrown into a ditch.
Document 96. On these long roads from Salonika to Sofia, the neighboring villages were immediately razed to the ground, and everyone, men, women, and children, were herded together and slaughtered.
Then into a church and took out stealing. They always shot them in threes. The ones inside could hear this and they barricaded themselves in and put up resistance. Then they had to burn the church down because they couldn't get in.
Fire on them! Fire on them!
Fire on them!
Fire on them! Fire on them!
Fire on them! Fire on them!
To say, men who condone such things must be evil.
If we do not do this, we shall be lost for centuries to come.
If you admit life is ruled by a great moral code, you must.
Coming through. We shall have no alternative but to shoot thousands, possibly tens of thousands of people in cold blood.
We have sinned, not you and I personally, but all of us.
We didn't know any figures, but my God, when you hear the approximate numbers.
Maybe even one's own brother, if they oppose the rehabilitation of the German people.
As representatives of the system, which has broken every moral code in the world,
the enemy will have the right to say, men who condone such things must be evil.
If we do not do this, we are lost for centuries to come.
If you admit life is ruled by a moral code, you must condemn yourself.
A world order exists, and we have sinned against it.
to Winston Churchill. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency. Your Excellency. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency.
The Allies have won. Hitler's Reich has vanished. We, soldiers, who were bound by our own beastly despair, mistakes of the past, and a regime that has called the name of Germany reserved within the Christian.
We are especially ashamed and outraged by the news about the monstrous undertaking in the concentration camps and other places. We hope that we will be given a chance to collaborate within this spirit. Finally lead it with all its gifts into the community of nations.
Hitler appeared as a saviour from class hatred and unemployment.
We Germans realised his true nature too late.
We ask you to find ways to convince yourself of our good intentions.
There will be a long time of suffering.
We are confident
and
towards
re-education
this
for our
because of
people.
your once uttered creed. Passere subjectis et debellare superba.
To spare the underdog and pull down the proud. We declare
that we are honestly ready
to be available to the Allies for a reconstruction
Within the spirit
of the Christian culture.
in the name of many.
in the name of many. In the name of many.
In the name of many. In the name of many.
In the name of many. In the name of many.
in the name of many.
In the name of many.
In the name of many. In the name of many.
In the name of Jesus.
And there's an educational room upstairs for later on, but now it's time to enjoy.
It's a Holocaust archive with a lot of material brought out by German young people from 1933 to 1939. So they came with this.